everyone, welcome to Portuguese. Portuguese is another Romance language which has very unique sounds and spellings. In this video we'll take a look at the background of the language, 10 sample words, and vowel rules, and in the next video we will examine consonant rules and spellings and revisit our 10 words to see if we can decipher the Portuguese in them. Right, let's begin. First with background of Portuguese. As I've already mentioned, it's a Romance language. Romance language. Now remember, the Romance languages are French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian. So Portuguese is a Romance language, and again, that means it evolved from Latin, came from Latin. And for this reason, all the Romance languages are basically connected. They have very similar words, they're very similar to Latin, and they're very similar to each other. And we'll see that in Portuguese. We'll see some similarities with rules and words with French and Spanish and Italian. So again, Portuguese is in that category. And like I said, there are many similarities to the other Romance languages, yet there are many differences as well. Portuguese is very, very unique. It has certain spellings that are not found in the other languages, so it's very similar yet very different. Portuguese is spoken mainly in Brazil and Portugal, and also in African countries like Angola. So it's spoken mainly in Brazil, Portugal, and some African countries like Angola. Brazil, Portugal, Angola for sure. And the reason for this sort of widespread geographic places that speak Portuguese is because of the immense expansion during the Age of Discovery. If you know that Portugal was very, very big on exploration, and Portuguese people did explore a lot, and during this Age of Discovery, that's why we have many places, Africa, Europe, South America. As you see here, Portuguese is, spoken all over the world. So, and again, that's due to the immense expansion of the Portuguese people a couple centuries ago. Also, because of that, there's a relation to Arabic with Portuguese, relation to Arabic and Persian. Again, it's because of this discovery and this exploration is that, between the 9th and 15th centuries, Portugal got a lot of words from Arabic from Moorish Iberia, which was Al-Andalus, region, near the Iberian Peninsula, near Spain and Portugal, where there were a lot of Muslims, there, and that's why there's a lot of similarities between Portuguese and Arabic and Persian. So that's one reason. Another reason is Portugal did have a hand in India for a while, and obviously there's a lot of Persian and Arabic near India, so that's another reason why Portugal and Arabic are pretty similar. So this is a background of Portuguese. One thing to remember is that there are a couple words in spelling bees that, couple words that come from Portuguese, but there's not a whole lot, definitely not like French or Latin or Greek, but there are some, so it's definitely important to learn Portuguese rules and, know the spelling patterns just in case you might get one of those words. Okay, now speaking of words, we can take a look at our 10 Portuguese words from Portuguese. I'm going to write the words and then also put up there the diacritics, the dictionary pronunciation. So the first word we'll see in Portuguese. Let me write it out. This word is pronounced capoeira, and it's noted as such. Ka, we've got the A with 2 dots. And there's an optional schwa, so you don't have to say it, but you can. So it's capoeira or capoeira. Long A, wera. So this word is capoeira, capoeira. Okay, word number 2. This word is pronounced berimbau, berimbau. There's a nasal sound in there, and it's written like this, bay. There's a long A. we have a long E, and we have a nasal N, which is the sound, which we hear a lot in French. So Beirut. Also, you could say the M. It's optional, so it's Beirut or Beirim. And then we've got bow. A and U with the U having one dot is ow. So this is Beirut bow. Beirut bow. Very Portuguese word. Another word is Sarangueiro. Sarangueiro. Like that, Sarangueiro. And we're going to write it the diacritic, which is like this. There's a schwa with a dot on top, which is somewhat like in short I sounds, Sarangueiro. There's an optional accent here. Shouldn't worry about that too much. Also, this is pronounced Sarangueiro, so it can be either Sarangueiro or Sarangueiro. Okay, there's a lot of words with alternate pronunciations in Portuguese, and really that's only to your benefit. It's going to help you in figuring out the spellings. Another word is Savelia. Savelia. It's written, or it's spelled like this, Savelia. Okay, so there's a schwa sa, and then velia. There's that Y sound, Savelia. Savelia. Okay, fifth word is calema. Calema. Now this word is somewhat like an exception to Portuguese rules, and that's why I've included it in this list. We'll talk about it later of why it's somewhat like an exception. But the diacritic is ka, lay, long A, M, and a schwa. So calema. Calema. So here are our first 5 words of Portuguese: capoeira, berimbau, sarangueiro, savelia, and calema. And hopefully you can start to see some unique spellings and sounds in Portuguese, and we're going to talk about all of this when we get to the rules. Okay, so these are our first 5 words, and we can go ahead and look at our next 5. So here's capoeira, berimbau, sarangueiro or sarangueiro, savelia, and calema. Okay, and our 6th word is ipecac. Ipecac. And its diacritic is like this. Again, we have that schwa with the dot on top. Ipecac. Also, it's ipecac. So ipecac or ipecac. Alternate pronunciation again. Next word is frejo. Frejo. Also, it's freja. So it's either frejo or freja. Okay, so I'll put the first one up. That's what I'm doing with all these words, just putting their first pronunciation. So it's frejo. Frejo. Okay, our next word is cachaça. I really like this word. C-A-C-H-A-C-A, but it's pronounced cachaça. Cachaça. So it's written like this. Ka. Sha, A with 2 dots, or ah sound. And sa. Cachaça. Word number 9 is caixinha. This is a very typical Portuguese word. Caixinha. Like that. Yes, it is C-A-I-X-I-N-H-A. And yes, it is pronounced caixinha. Okay, so it's a long I here. It says its own name. And then we've got xinha. We've got long E. And Y with the schwa, so caixinha. And our final word for Portuguese is aratinga. Aratinga. Spelled like that. And its pronunciation, aratinga. Aratinga. So these are our 6th through 10th words of Portuguese: ipecac, freio, cachaça, caixinha, and aratinga. And just to recap, the first 5 words were capoeira, berimbau, seringueiro or seringueiro, savelia, and calema. And along with ipecac, freio, cachaça, caixinha, and aratinga, here are our 10 Portuguese words, and we'll come back to these 10 in the next video once we're done analyzing all the rules and spelling patterns of Portuguese, and we'll see if we can decipher their, their spellings and their pronunciations. Okay, so ipecac, freio, cachaça, caixinha, and aratinga. So those were our words, and we'll jump right into our vowel sounds. Now, Portuguese is somewhat simple in terms of vowel sounds, sort of like Italian. It's, they're pretty straightforward, and they follow the rules most of the time, so we will take a look at that. So let's start with the first vowel, A, and we'll look at all the vowel sounds pertaining to A, and our first one is our A with 2 dots. This is pronounced A, and in Portuguese, what we're going to have is we're going to have mostly an A. Very simple, mostly just an A for the spelling of the A sounds. Really, there's only 2 words in Portuguese with AA, so 2 words that utilize AA, a double A for the A sound. And those 2 words are catinga, or catinga, like that, and copy, C-A-A-P-I. So with the exception of these 2, mostly everything else is going to be just an A for the A sound, like cabasa. Wow, all of them start with a C. Okay, so cabasa, catinga, copy. Really, there's only 2 with AA. We don't have to worry about that too much. This is a common feature of Afrikaans, and Portuguese is very similar to Afrikaans. So, that's another reason why this might be like this, but mostly we're going to keep it simple and just keep it in A. Okay, so that's the A sound. Okay, and our next sound for A is long A, which is very similar to other, Romance languages. Long A sound in Portuguese is going to be, spelled really 2 different ways. Mostly it's going to be just an E. Mostly it's going to be an E, just like it is in, Spanish and Italian. Example word is tristeza. Tristeza. Here we see the E for the A sound, so tristeza. Also, it could be EI, and this is one interesting feature of Portuguese. It could be EI. Usually it's going to be EI if it's in the root airo, E-I-R-O, or era, E-I-R-A. And these 2 are sort of stems that come at the ends of Portuguese words, and they are the equivalent to the English ER, meaning one who does, like teacher. So there are a lot of Portuguese words ending in airo and era. Airo is masculine, and era is feminine, but they mean the same thing. It means someone who does, like ER. So if you hear this at the end of a word, airo or era, and it's a person doing something specific, then you're going to utilize the EI. An example is jangadero. Jangadero. I think it's a person who has a jangada. So again, you have that arrow at the end, meaning one who does. So we have our EI. Otherwise, if it's not arrow or era, you can pretty much be safe with just an E for the A sound. Okay, so that's a long A, and our final sound for A is short A, which is pronounced A. It's pronounced A, and it's written. It's just an A. It's pronounced A, and our rule is pretty simple. It's just going to be an A most of the time. This sound is not too common in Portuguese, so we don't have to worry about it too much, but if you run into it, it's going to be an A. Example is fazendeiro. fazendero. We have our A here. Now look, this is what we just talked about, our E-I-R-O ending. If there's a long A, and it's one who does, it's going to be E-I. So, that's just a reference to our previous rule. Again, it comes from fazenda, so that's why we have fazendero, and our A here is representing the A sound. So A for just short A, okay? So that concludes A, and we can move on to our next vowel, E. E. Now E is pretty simple in Portuguese. E. There we go. And our first sound we're going to take a look at is long E. Long E. E with a line over it. This is pronounced E. And in Portuguese, it's mostly going to be an I, just like the other Romance languages. Mostly an I. But it can sometimes, very rarely, be E. So sometimes, rarely, not too often, you have to look out for these words. It can be an E. And usually it's going to be an E in words that that influence Portuguese. And we'll see that in a second. Some examples. With I, there's principe, also principe. Several different ways to pronounce this, meaning this word means prince, but principe, our E sound is going to be an I, and there's tons of examples that utilize the I for the E sound. Remember, it can be an E very rarely, like sepoy. Sepoy is Portuguese, but really it was influenced by Hindi and Persian, and maybe that's why we have an E for the E sound. So again, it's best to learn the words with E. For the E sound, mostly it's going to be an I though, so it shouldn't be a problem. So that's a long E for us. Now we can move on to short E, which is pronounced as in egg, okay? So this is just an E, short E, and it's pronounced and in Portuguese, we're going to keep it simple. It's going to be just an E. Just an E, no fancy rules there. Examples, Magellan, definitely. One second, Magellan comes from the name Magellan, but it's Portuguese. The name's Portuguese, so it does follow the rule. Here we have E for the S sound. If that doesn't work, elephanta is another example. Elephanta. You could probably see the word elephant in there. But this has the E for the E as well. So E sound is always going to be spelled with an E in Portuguese. Okay, so that's E. Done with E, and we can move on to I. And our first sound we're going to look at in I is going to be long I. Long I. And that's just I with the line over it, like that. And in Portuguese, somewhat like the other, languages, it's going to be AI. It's going to be AI in Portuguese. For the I sound, this is maybe another feature that sets Portuguese apart from other languages, but it's going to be AI most of the time. You can, pretty much be sure about that. Examples are kai arara, arara, kai arara. We have our AI there. Einhum is another one. Einhum. Got our AI there. So mostly it's going to be AI for I. Really, there aren't too many exceptions. The sound might not be too common in Portuguese, but again, if you run into it, spell it with an AI and you'll be fine. Okay, so that was long I, and now we'll look at short I, which is just I. It's written as an I, but it's pronounced I, and the rule is pretty much very simple. It's just spell it with an I. Okay, very simple. It's just going to be an I. Example is inaja. Inaja. So we have our I there for the I sound, and this is really the only way to spell the I sound in Portuguese. It's going to be just an I. So remember, the I sound is going to be spelled AI, but the I sound is going to be spelled with an I. Okay, so that's that for I, and we can move on to our next vowel, which is O. O. Now, O is, again, pretty simple for us. O is usually like the most simplest vowel, because usually it's just spelled with an O. So our first sound we're going to look at is long O. A long O, which is O with a line over it, pronounced O. And the rule, very, very simple, just spelled with an O. Like I said, O is very simple. Example is karaoke. Karaoke. So we have our O there, okay, for the O sound, karaoke. Now this can happen, at the beginnings of words, in the middle, at the end. So pretty much everywhere the O sound is going to be spelled with an O. And actually that's it for the O sound, because really Portuguese doesn't really have the O with one dot sound, the aw sound. So really long O is all we have to worry about. So that brings us to our final vowel, U. Okay, and U, first sound we're going to look at in U is a short, not really, it was short U. I think it can be called short U. Basically it's a U with two dots. It's pronounced oo, oo. Now here's where Portuguese gets interesting. Normally, oo is spelled with an O. So normally, might be a little counterintuitive, but this is how Portuguese operates. Normally it's going to be an O, especially at the ends of words. There's a lot of instances where the word ends with the oo sound, and it's going to be spelled with an O. Sometimes it can be a U. Sometimes it can be U, and this is going to be more towards the middle. So this is going to be more towards the end, this more towards the middle. Okay, and we'll look at some examples. Our first one is shukalyu. This is a very interesting word. Here you've got it twice. We've got shukalyu. We've got our O for the oo sound, and again O for the oo sound. Shukalyu. Example with U is makumba. Makumba. We've got U for the oo sound, and this is in the middle. Also, this is in the middle for O, but I think O is more common for Portuguese. It's the typical way to spell it. So you have to be on the lookout for words using the U, the letter U for the oo sound, which is definitely not as common. Also, there's only like 2 words that use OO for the oo sound, so 2 words using OO. So again, we don't have to worry about this too much, but those 2 words are Gentoo and Vindaloo. So let me give that to you guys, Gentoo and Vindaloo. Really the only 2 words using OO, so we don't have to worry about that too much. But U and O are definitely viable options. Mostly it's going to be an O for the oo sound in Portuguese, sometimes a U. So that's it for the oo sound. Really, Portuguese doesn't have the U with one dot sound, which is as in book, so we don't have to worry about that. So that concludes U, and our final vowel sound, the one we love, is the schwa. So let's get the schwa up here. Schwa, remember that's the upside down E, it's pronounced Basically, it can be spelled with any vowel, and that still holds true in Portuguese. So, it can be A, E, I, O, and U. A, E, I, O, and U. And the thing with Portuguese is it's mostly might be A. It's like many times it's going to be an A. So this is definitely common. It's the most often one. Examples are abacaxi. It's a very nice Portuguese word. Abacaxi. Here you've got it twice. This A and this A represent the schwa sound. Example with E is elephanta, which we saw a while ago. The second E here is the schwa, elephanta. With an I, we've got galavat. Okay, we've got an I. For O, corpuscent, put it up here. Corpuscent. Our O is the schwa here. And U, bulse, definitely an example. B-U-L-S-E, bulse. Comes from Portuguese bolsa, but the word is bulse. So again, as you can notice, all of these schwa sounds appear in the middle of the words. Right here in the middle, right in the middle, close to the middle. So again, mostly it's going to be an A, especially at the ends of words, like elephanta here. But sometimes, very rarely, it can be these four, and you just have to be on the lookout for the schwa. Not only in Portuguese, but as we've seen in pretty much all the languages. Definitely, it's known as the sticky spot for a reason because it can be spelled so many ways. But in Portuguese, if you're ever stuck on the schwa, I would recommend using an A because that's definitely more common. Okay, so this concludes our vowel sounds in Portuguese, and in the next video we'll, do the consonants and finish up with Portuguese, and again revisit our 10 words and see if we can apply all these rules that we've learned.